Hi, welcome to Rick Snider's Washington, where you get the extended version here on YouTube, all the good gossip and such. And so make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. And today's masterclass is on the secrets of the Lincoln Memorial. Are there secrets? Well, there's a lot of gossip about the Lincoln Memorial. We're going to go through some of it. And for those of you who are saying, the Lincoln Memorial? Okay, the Lincoln Memorial. You'd be surprised the questions I get as a tour guide in this town. All right, let's play the first game. What famous building does this remind you of? And they'll go, the 8th graders I have will go, Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, okay, you're an A student, I can see that. But this is also the Parthenon in Greece, back in its day. Why? Because back when we built this, 1924, they wanted to honor the first democracy in world history of some sort of republic, and that was Greece. So that's why they did Parthenon. 36 columns for the 36 states of the Civil War. You see the bottom row of names that'll go across. You can't see it here, but when you stand there, and I'm giving you this so when you take your friends to the Lincoln Memorial from out of town, it's the most visited place in DC, about 7 million people. And they'll go, what's all that mean? You go, oh. And listen, I hate to say I was just as bad as you before I became a tour guide, where you got to study a lot, because I didn't know it had an elevator or a bathroom. See this over here, left of the steps? There's a door that goes in there. There's an elevator and restrooms. I never knew that until I became a tour guide at 50. I just walked up the steps. And yeah, it's a little bit of a walk. They're not, the number of steps doesn't represent anything. All right, bottom row are the states as in the Civil War that came into the Union. And then there's a top row of names up here, the 48 states that were around in 1924. So if you want to visit Alaska, Hawaii, I think it's over here on there. One of the famous parts right up here at the top of this steps where the guy in the white is. It's one last flight up. But right there is where Dr. Martin Luther King gave his I Had a Dream speech in 1963, where he faced 250,000 people there. It was probably his most famous speech. And then we go all the way up to the top, and you take a big breath. Please don't sit on the steps here. Nobody can get by you like a goober. Tourists do this all the time. It's not safe, to be quite honest. There are handrails on both sides of this if you get a little old and unsteady like me, and maybe you want to grab the rail once in a while, especially when it's wet. It's a little slippery around here, and people fall here. I have seen a number of leg injuries, bad ones. And most of it's 8th graders trying to fly over the whole thing, or skid down this part right here, which is not a slide. Sorry, on there. And then you go inside, and there's big old Abe Lincoln, which, believe it or not, the statue of Abe Lincoln, since we're doing a master class, it came in 7 pieces because they couldn't have fit it through otherwise. And put it together. It came from 7 different states, so it showed the unity of the country coming back together on there. On the left side, you'll see the Gettysburg Address, and it starts off the big 7 years ago. And I asked the kids, I said, so what does that mean, 7 years ago? So, okay, you wouldn't know this. A score is a farming term for 20. So 4 times 20 is 80, plus 7. When he said this, that takes you back to 1776. So that's why I did that. Above it is a mural of an angel taking slaves to heaven. If you go to the right side, you will see the second inaugural address, which was his last major speech, given about a month before he died. And for those of you who don't know this, but most of you do, I am related to John Wilkes Booth, the assassin, so don't mess with me. Yeah, mom's side, distant cousin. So anyway, at the very end of that, to paraphrase it, it says, with charity to all and malice toward none, let us bind our nation's wounds. I've kind of truncated that. But what he's basically saying is, the war's about over. The North and South must forgive each other, or else we're never going to be one country again. All right, so you can look for that. One other thing I forgot to tell you. All right, so if you look up here, around at the top, it's hard to see from the ground, but there's like a baseball-sized dent in it. During World War II, they actually had anti-aircraft guns on the buildings. And over at the interior building, supposedly they were trying to clean the gun at lunchtime, and it went off, and it hit the Lincoln Memorial and left a dent. But unless you're really up on it, it's hard to see it. And then, of course, you see the Lincoln. And then there's this big old mystery about, is Robert E. Lee's face in the back of Lincoln's head, looking toward Arlington, which was behind it, for where he lived. Okay, here's a picture of this. And this is not Robert E. Lee, but this is how it goes. All right, so you're looking at Lincoln's head. You look to the middle of the ear and come straight across, and it kind of looks like a nose. All right, and up here looks like the forehead. Down here looks like the bottom of his face. If anything, it might be Poseidon or something from there. But, you know, you can kind of, once you see the nose, the rest of this kind of looks a little bit like a face. It's just an optical illusion. It's not Robert E. Lee looking back at his home. Makes for a good story, though. And I pointed out, you know, if you ever want to go tour guiding with a guide, you know, I'll take you around. We'll show these things. You know, a couple of things about the Lincoln Memorial, too, is, well, one great thing coming, they're going to be building a museum underneath the whole width of the thing. Daniel Rubenstein, who's a local hedge fund guy here, does great work with historical things that need to be fixed or embellished. And he's paying for this thing, not the taxpayers. So God bless you. I hope to meet the man one day. And it'll have a lot of great stuff. Probably 2-3 years away, but it'll help. And if I always take people around the backside of the Lincoln Memorial so that they can see Memorial Bridge. You can see all the way into Arlington Cemetery. You can see Lee's house up there. On a winter day without any leaves on the trees, sometimes I can see the eternal flame of John F. Kennedy there. So it's kind of cool. Not many people ever walk around the back. And since there's nobody there, you get a feeling of being alone and you feel the architecture of the building, those kind of things. It's really cool. It's worth walking around. I mean, you've already walked up there. Go ahead and take a trip around. You can get some really good pictures at times. I've had people who came from a very small town somewhere were fascinated by watching the planes landing at nearby National Reagan Airport. And we stayed there for like 10 minutes. They could just watch the planes land. Hey, everybody's got something they like. So that's the Lincoln Memorial. You know, in the old days, I think up until the late 60s, you could drive in front of Lincoln Memorial. You could connect from Independence and Constitution, driving right through that thing in the plaza, but it's all closed off now. You never know what you'll see there. I hear all kind of foreign languages because if you're only going to see one thing in Washington, if your friends from out of town want to see something, you take them to see the Lincoln. You know, with about 7 million people a year, it's a big deal. Now we're in pandemic times, so it's a little less. And you can't park too close. I'll give you a secret hint. Don't tell anybody about this. Around Constitution, 21st Streets, go up the side streets. Sometimes you can find parking not too far away. And when you walk in, you basically at 21st, you follow the path. You'll go right past the Vietnam Wall, which, okay, hey, I got a picture of that too. We can talk about it. Here it is. This one's at night that my wife took. And you can see, we'll talk about this another day. Here's Vietnam Wall. One side points to George Washington. The other side points to Abraham Lincoln. All the names and all. It's a really cool thing. It's definitely worth walking through that. And we'll talk about that another day of what goes on there. And of course, the Korean War Memorial's on the other side of a reflecting pool. And of course, she has a reflecting pool. So there's a lot to see right there. Sometimes you see movies. I remember seeing Captain America being filmed there many years ago now. That was kind of cool. You know, you see famous people. You see TV shows starting to film something. That kind of stuff. You never know what you're going to see. It's a little crowded, but it's definitely worth taking your friends to see the Lincoln Memorial and show them the face in the back. You sound like a real native when you do these things. All right. Well, that's it for today's masterclass. Secret to the Lincoln Memorial. Like I said, share, like, and subscribe at the bottom. Appreciate it. Helps me make a, maybe I'll make a living off this one day. Who knows? I'm Rick Snider for Rick Snider's Washington. Thanks for coming. See you again soon.